The Wild Wild West tour continues on today's show. The debut had the Dallas Mavericks, the Western Conference champions from a season ago, featured. Today, a little drum roll, we go with possibly the worst team in the Western Conference in 24-25, at least projected. That's the Portland Trail Blazers. What do they have to look forward to, and could they be a potential trade partner for the Golden State Warriors? That and more on today's Locked On Dubs.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is the good word, everyone? Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen of every day. We are free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts and also streaming on YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is sponsored by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. My name's Charlie Walter, formerly of 95.7 The Game, sports talk host there in San Francisco. Also in the same building, CBS News Bay Area, where I cover the Warriors title run in 21-22. During that season, or I guess the season after, rather, when the Golden State Warriors did not win an NBA championship, one of the things they did that season was trade with the Portland Trail Blazers. And in return, they got a damaged Gary Payton II. We're going to talk about that trade because today on the Wild Wild West show on the tour, it continues and it stops in Portland, where we have a talk with the Trail Blazers and their host, Mike Richman of the Locked On Blazers podcast. We're also going to talk about his thoughts on the Warriors as a whole. It's good to hear an outside perspective, people that have no biases. Any chance the Warriors do business with the Blazers after the tough dealings with Gary Payton, and then just the Blazers' expectations as a whole. But we welcome in for the first time on Locked On Warriors, at least with me sitting in the chair. It's Mike Richman. What is up, my friend? How are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me. I'm not sure I've ever been on Locked On Warriors. I think this is my maiden voyage. So thanks for having me.
These shows are always fun because Mike and I met literally 45 seconds ago, real time. It's like he pops in backstage. It's, hey, man, what's going on? You ready to knock out a 20-minute show or whatever? Yeah, let's do it. So content's easy, though. We got NBA to talk about. And with the Blazers, maybe not a lot to talk about this season. 21
hold on, dude. I'm about to report 250 episodes about the Portland Trail Blazers. Some of us are going to find a lot to talk about, my guy.
That is a very fair perspective. I'm saying from the national writer's perspective, there's not a lot to talk about because I was just reading a preview, Mike, and it said star players for the Portland Trail Blazers. None. It just said none.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'm like, none.
Star player, yeah.
Scoot. Like, I know he wasn't great last year, but you got to call someone a star. I mean, maybe Shaedon Sharpe comes out and knocks down some shots this season. But I just want to know about the Blazers' expectations as a whole. I'm guessing they are expected even, maybe not internally, but from the fan base to be near the bottom of the Western Conference. What is there to look forward to in Portland aside from the future? This season, what is there to look forward to?
A young man playing basketball in Durham, North Carolina. Maine's own Cooper. No, I'm just kidding. They're going to be bad. Obviously, I think the franchise is intentionally bad. This is a team that is most of the West. I would say 14, and not really Jazz. 13 of the 15 teams are trying to be competitive, which makes it in some ways easier for the Blazers to be terrible. But they're a team that's going to pull the plug pretty aggressively when we get to the spring, and they're not talented enough to be probably up in the mix prior to that. So the losses will kind of take care of themselves. But Scoot Henderson was pretty rough his rookie season, but showed some promise in the last 10 or 15 games. Shaedon Sharpe he kind of missed his sophomore year, only played 30 games, but has enough talent to be pretty tantalizing and worth the watch. Avery Simon's a really good offensive player. Jerami Grant would be better he'd be more helpful on a good team than he is on the Trailblazers. And DeAndre Ayton, after a brutal start to his Blazers career, was really good in the final 25 games. So what you're hoping for is that some of the young guys pop, like the Donovan Clingan looks good, and Shaedon Sharpe looks good, and Scoot Henderson looks good, and they still win 27 games and finish in the bottom of the West and get lucky when the ping pong balls come up in April.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm wondering in regards to the direction that this franchise is going in the future. I think it's very clear that they're going to try to build this thing back up in June on draft day and figure out who kind of the next stars are that way. In terms of internally right now, we've heard that Jerami Grant is a likely trade possibility at some point this upcoming season. I thought it may happen this offseason. Can't remember if I heard Simon's name out there. Ayton always pops up from time to time. Like with the pieces they have on this current roster, and we'll weave this into, potential Warriors trades with the next question, but just with the trades of, the potential trades that they have in play right now, like who do you expect to be on this team by season's end out of those three players I just mentioned, Simons, Ayton, and Jerami Grant?
Yeah, it's kind of weird that Jerami Grant and that both Jerami Grant and Anthony Simons are still on the roster. They didn't really do anything this summer. They made one move prior to the trade and got Denny Avdia. They're running back basically the exact same team they had last year. Malcolm Brogdon out, Denny Avdia in the running, 14 of the same 15 players back, which is like, to me, kind of wild. I don't get it, but
What's season tickets looking like out there in Portland? I mean, I guess at the end of the day, you gotta show up for your squad, right?
Hey, it's still decent. It's expensive, but a decent entertainment in the winter. It's pretty wet. It's good. The rain's coming and basketball is too. I would assume Jerami Grant gets traded, but I don't think it's incredibly important that they trade him. He's not really blocking anyone who needs to play. He's just a little bit older on a team that's young. And I think he does have some trade value, although his contract, it's not that big dollar wise. Like I think people see the $30 million and they say, oh my gosh, but that's not that much money in the modern NBA. That's like starter money. It's a good gig. But it's the years. He's got 4 years left on his deal. That might not be super appealing to every team. Simons really you haven't heard his name pop up in the reporting, but it would make sense that he would get traded when Joe Cronin, the Blazers GM, talked at the X interviews. He said, we're going to do everything we can to build around Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson. The name that he didn't mention was the 25-year-old guard who was their damn near their leading scorer last season, and Anthony Simons. That's weird. Like put a star next to that one. Ayton, I don't know if he's tradable, because it's just the money's so big, and who wants to pay a center $35 million if they're not named Nicola or Joel? And so he's probably not that tradable, but I assume and probably Jerami Grant will be traded this year, but it's not a lock because the Blazers have moved slow. They've moved slow with this thing. They're being, they're either dragging their feet or they're mastering patience, depending on how you view it.
So I'm wondering if there's any chance, and we'll make this a couple part question, but we'll start with there being any chance that the Warriors do business with the Blazers this offseason. We'll get into the whole Gary Payton debacle. For those of you that need a refresher, let's just give you in a nutshell. The Warriors obviously traded James Wiseman. They got Gary Payton II in return. When they got him, they found out that Gary Payton was not just dinged up, he was very much injured. And there were the rumblings internally that the Warriors were pretty pissed off at the Trailblazers, and we wondered how much business would they do with them in the future. We could talk about that in just a second, but I guess question A would be, do any of these players make sense for the Golden State Warriors roster, specifically maybe Jerami Grant?
Yeah,
and
Jerami
I guess
Grant's the only
second
one, right?
part of it, man, the second part of it, is there anyone on the Warriors right now, aside from draft capital, that you would look at and say, this makes sense from both sides if we swapped him for him?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Jonathan Kuminga would be pretty enticing, but what do the Blazers have to offer for Jonathan Kuminga, really? He's going to be the fish that they throw out for Lauri Markkanen, right? He's like a tier above in terms of, they won't trade pods, but they'll trade JK. It's for whatever reason. Moses Moody, I'm intrigued by, but I don't know. Does he fit with what the Blazers? Do they need that type of player necessarily? I think Jerami Grant's the most obvious fit with the Warriors, just because the length and the shooting, which makes sense for him. He's a pretty bad rebounder. They're a pretty bad rebounding team. Maybe they love it. Maybe they want to stick with not being able to get defensive boards. But Jerami Grant makes enough money that making the money work with a team without just the Blazers absorbing Andrew Wiggins, which I don't know why they would necessarily want that contract. It's pretty tough to see it work. And just to your first question, Yeah, I don't see these teams doing business. I don't see them doing business. I mean, I know that it was Bob Myers and not Mike Dunleavy, but Mike Dunleavy was part of that front office. It's not like he came in and is like, you know what? That's beef of the old crew. That's beef of his old boss. That's beef. You know who was also probably pissed, but in a less public way? Mike Dunleavy Jr. Portland's own, by the way. Shout out to the Jesuit High School. So yeah, I can't see them doing business. One, because of like maybe just beef, and two, because the most reasonable trade partner is Jerami Grant, or most target is Jerami Grant, and the Warriors is like, it's kind of tough for them to kind of make the money work in a good Jerami Grant trade that makes sense for the Blazers without involving some other teams.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like the Wiggins and Grant, if you did the clean swap and threw in some different assets to balance the sheet out, that one could work there. But then the Blazers would be taking on Andrew Wiggins for the next 3 years. And then you look at the timeline that they have, like that makes about as little sense as I've ever seen a scenario in the entire NBA's history. Yeah. Like that, I mean, that one just, I don't know about that. But Gary Payton, man, let's get into it. When we return on Locked On Warriors, we're going back in time, stepping into a time machine and discussing the trade that almost wasn't. Gary Payton II from a Portland reporter's perspective. That is coming up on Locked On Warriors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Taking a look back at the Gary Payton II trade, because unfortunately I've never had the opportunity to really sit with a Blazers reporter, a fan, anyone that's been tied to the Portland Trail Blazers and get their side of the story that went down. Now, to kind of put this into perspective from me, Mike, I was doing at the time 95.7 The Game, which is the radio show in San Francisco, and CBS, which is the TV station. And they're both in the same building, one on floor 2, one on floor 4. And I would go Mrs. Doubtfire. I'd have the suit on upstairs. I'm not even joking you, Mike. There were some times where I'd do 18 minutes of a radio segment. It would be a 21-minute segment, and I'd have to go upstairs to do like a little 5 o'clock cut-in or 7 o'clock cut-in, whatever it was. And I would run upstairs and tell my co-host, Dan Devone, I'd be like, just talk for 3 minutes. Turn off the YouTube live stream. Just act like it cut out and just talk for 3 minutes. I'll be right back down. I'd take out, put on the suit, put on the, anyways, that's for another day. Why I say all that is because I had two very different perspectives. Upstairs on TV, you're more, suit and tie. You're just reporting the facts. Downstairs on radio, it's just speculation, baby. It's just a bunch of people saying a bunch of things, throwing darts at walls. New reports are coming out every single day. But from what I remember, because I didn't even want to read back into it, I just wanted to use my real life experience to try and bring it back up because I had forgotten about this. Warriors obviously were looking to ship out James Wiseman. Somehow Saddiq Bey got involved and came back to the Golden State Warriors. Then it wasn't Saddiq Bey. And all of a sudden we find out Gary Payton II's coming back, which is huge news for Golden State because he was a critical part to the championship team the year before. Unfortunately, he didn't pass a physical. And I'm pretty sure this was right around the time that Carlos Correa didn't pass a physical. So the new storyline in San Francisco was stop doing these physicals. And, Gary Payton ends up coming through. He comes to the Warriors, hasn't been extremely healthy since, has not stayed on the floor much at all. And the whispering was that the Warriors front office was pretty pissed and probably won't do business with the Trailblazers anytime soon. What did I miss from your perspective?
Yeah. So I think what the real, so the, There is, I guess the real conspiracy that you're missing here is that the Warriors sent Gary Payton out as a spy balloon, and they said, "Hey, we'll get you back." They said, "Go get your money. Go get your money. We'll get you back." No, I don't even think I believe that, but that's a good conspiracy theory. But
spying on what though? I mean, spying on what?
I don't know. Just like go get paid and we'll figure out how to get you back because we can't pay you. And this is the only way you can get your money.
Okay.
Spying on at the time, in theory, a competitive playoff team. They just happened to suck. And it was like the end of an era. They just, everything went, it was like the beginning of everything going wrong. And then like the franchise icon leaving town. But so importantly, Gary Payton and Damian Lillard share an agent. So that's a really big funny part of this story. Aaron Goodwin has like 4 clients in the entire league, and 2 of them are Damian Lillard and Gary Payton. So, they do business with Aaron Gordon's client. It's the big signing of the offseason, a mid-level signing to get Gary Payton. That it hard caps them, so they're kind of like committed to this group. And Payton is hurt in training camp, and the Blazers release a press release that says he is expected to be back fully covered for the beginning of the season. And then it was like, he didn't play. And it was Gary Payton. He'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks, reevaluated in 2 weeks, reevaluated in 2 weeks. And here's where the Blazers really effed up. They never made him available to the media. So GP never spoke to us. He never said, yeah, my body's just not right. I want to play, but I can't, but my body's not right. Instead, it was like 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. It's all just speculating. It's all just people yelling into microphones and throwing darts, just a little bit, 700 miles north of where you were. And it comes to a point right around the new year where Chauncey Billups has been asked about GP so many times that he lets it slip. We've cleared him to play, and it's his choice not to. And then it's like, oh, what an incredible screw up by the organization this is. Like, this is really stepping in it. Because it's like, if they just let him talk, then if GP says, I don't want to play, then that's a human saying, I don't want to play. You got to respect a person. But when the coach says we've cleared him to play and he doesn't want to, that doesn't look good. And then they trade him, right? And then he's like, GP's choosing not to play. The Blazers have cleared him to play. They trade him to the Warriors, and the Warriors get him. And within 24 hours, they're like, yo, he is very hurt. And so then the Blazers look extra bad because he'd been cleared to play by their standards for a freaking month or whatever. And then he briefly came back on the floor and dove on the floor once against the Pistons. That's what I remember from the GP era, is that one time against the Pistons, he made a hustle play around midcourt and dove on the floor. And then there was like a 24-hour saga when maybe the trade wasn't going to go through, but GP was like at the Warriors game sitting next to Mike Dunleavy. And it was like, clearly he's a Warrior. They're mad, and they're probably rightfully mad. But I think, like, from my perspective, the Blazers just screwed up. They just handled it really poorly. I don't know enough about the medical stuff to tell you anything, but I know that the Blazers handled it very poorly.
Maybe wishful thinking to ever believe that Mike Dunleavy will pick up the phone and entertain an offer from Portland again, especially for a player that is considered sometimes damaged goods. But when he is not damaged, this particular player is very effective. We saw it against the Warriors in the NBA Finals in 21-22. That's a little tease. Could he have any appeal to Golden State if things break right? We're discussing that coming up. I am telling you, once you use the Gametime app, you will never go back because it makes the ticket purchasing process so enjoyable. It's not just for sports. It's concerts, comedy shows, live events, whatever it may be. Just so many features that take out the stress. A new feature called Gametime Picks filters out the fluff and shows you incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You don't want to see the tickets in the upper deck. You've already decided that you're paying the premium and sitting down low. So that's one thing that's extremely nice. My favorite personally is the fact that tickets get cheaper the closer you get to tip off, to first pitch, to kickoff, whatever it may be. You're running late for the game, or you just haven't thought about buying the tickets yet, even though you know you're going. Not every game sells out. That's when you hop on the Gametime app and you can get the cheapest tickets around as it gets closer to game time. Also, they'll credit you 110% of the difference if it's not the lowest price. That's their lowest price guarantee, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. we love customer service. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA, and you will get $20 off. And you think they handled it poorly enough to where bygones will not be bygones. And even if there was a player on the Blazers that made sense, whether it's this year or in the upcoming years, you don't think Dunleavy, you think Dunleavy may never say, I just will never do business.
Well, here's an interesting wrinkle that I was kind of sitting on for you because I knew we were going to talk about this. We did meet 45 seconds before the show started, but you sent me a show rundown. So you're a pro's pro. It's why you're in the one chair. The player that makes sense for the Golden State Warriors is Robert Williams III. Like that's the player that would make sense.
Time Lord. Oh yeah.
A guy he can really pass, which fits the whole Warriors ethos. He's a really good defender. He would allow them to play a little bit bigger because my guy Kevon Looney just got old fast. He got gray quickly last season after being such a stalwart for so long. Like they need Rob Williams, like that skill set. I don't know if they need him specifically, but they could use that skill set. But they can't trade with the Blazers for another off-injured dude. Like they can't call the Blazers and be like, "Hi, yes, more damaged goods, please." Like they can't.
Hi, how's Robert doing?
He's played 41 games.
Treatment. How much icy hot have you guys been going through?
He's played 41 games combined the last 2 years. Like the Warriors can't do that. But like he's a really interesting buy low candidate for them. It's just like those teams are not going to do business, and they're certainly not going to do business for that type of player.
See, I think they should though, because I was looking at the Blazers roster initially, and I kind of circled Ayton, and I'm like, he's intriguing. Then I thought about it, and there's just not a way that the Warriors can get it done to where it makes sense for both parties. Like,
and Draymond would hate him. He would hate him with all his heart.
And it doesn't make sense. Ayton brings a lot to the table offensively that I think the Warriors have been looking for a block presence for quite some time. But Williams, I think he does fit, and he gave the Warriors fits in the NBA championship, the games that he was healthy. He was great. Yeah. He was really good. I remember circling him at the time saying Golden State should go after this guy eventually. So I'm glad you brought that up. What would it take from your perspective? We'll put you in the GM chair. If Robert Williams trade deadline was going, what would you ask for from the Warriors?
I assume I assume that he is not particularly isn't particularly appealing because of the injuries, but assuming you get to the trade deadline and he's played like some games, then I guess you ask for I guess you start at Moses Moody and get rejected and work your way on down, I guess that's where you start. You're like, how about whatever Kendrick Perkins called him? Moldy Moses or whatever.
Moody Moses.
You start there and work your way down. Like the Warriors don't have a ton of like super intriguing youngsters. Like I don't think a Trace Jackson Davis swap doesn't really do it for me, but that could be something because he's young, but
capital though, man, all their picks intact with the way the Blazers are set up right now, just trying to add to the arsenal.
That's what I was going to say.
Draft picks as possible. It makes sense, right?
Do you think the Warriors, with all due respect, being as kind of like middle of the road as they might be, would trade firsts? Would they because obviously they've signed Steph Curry. They're going to try to be competitive in the Steph era. Like how do they balance? And I guess I'm curious about this from your perspective. How do they balance trading away future firsts versus being like, hey, like those future firsts are maybe our path to what's next? Or are they just like JK is going to pop and we're going to be good again and that's how it works?
Well, it depends. If we're talking mid-season trade deadline and the Warriors are good, I mean,
right.
Damn it. They're good. They're
right. Yeah. If they're like fifth in the West, then maybe you go for
like,
it. Sure.
Yeah, they're like 20. They're like, 37 and 22 or something like that. And it's like, all right, this Warriors team's actually good. Like they're legit. They could use some size though. Then at that point, and Robert Williams is healthy and has been effective, then it's a different conversation. And so it's really all hypotheticals and dependent right now, but
he's
something
been cleared to play by the Trailblazers medical staff. Then you got to get him on the team. You got to get him on the roster, baby.
He just hasn't been playing. He's been cleared for months. Chauncey Billups
he's been cleared since Christmas. It's February, baby.
Yeah, he's ready to go. Come on. Can we get another one of your lottery picks? How about Kuminga? I know that the Wiseman thing didn't work out well. Can we get Kuminga for Time Lord? But yeah, those are some of the big question marks that I had surrounding the Blazers. I mean, is there any chance in hell that this team pops and is actually solid? Any chance in hell?
No.
No, not even from someone that covers the team and has the rosé colored glasses. Just a no. Not even like there's a 1%.
I think there's a world.
Not even saying there's a chance.
I think there's a chance that they are like, we get to the 60 game mark and they're like 29-33 or whatever. That's not 60 games. That's 62 games. But okay, so we get to there's 20 games left in the season, and they've won 29 games, and they go freaking 0-20 because they send everyone home. Like everyone goes to Cancun. They'll send anybody with half a heartbeat. They're like, you have to leave. We cannot win another game the rest of the season. They have been so egregious in their willingness to lose in each of the last 3 seasons, that the idea that this year, when they're not talented, they have the best player of any team in the Western Conference. I mean, like, unless you like really don't like Alperen Şengün and Jalen Green, right? But to me, they have the best player in the Western Conference. It's a talent league. Talent wins. It's why the Warriors are still relevant. They have Steph Curry, right? Like, they have some problems, but it's a talent league, and they have one of the best players in the world. They're going to be competitive. The Blazers don't have that. They have Anthony Simons. They have the idea of 2 youngsters in Scoot Henderson and Shane Sharp. Like, so even if they overachieve, right, and they're like hovering around 500, this team has shown such a willingness to lose on purpose that I think they'll go like 0-20, 1-19 to end the season by signing G Leaguers off the street and faking injuries egregiously. It's what they do, and this is the year to not screw that up and finish 7th and have to draft VJ Edgecombe and not Cooper Flagg.
I know Vegas odds have numbers on everything. What are the chances you think they have like the longest losing streaks in a given season? 0-5, -500, 6-10, -297. You think we could get some 20+ odds for?
Well, we'll see. We'll have to see what FanDuel cooks up if the Blazers really start losing. I know that FanDuel's over-under line was 21.5. The Blazers won 21 games last year, so they're basically saying, hey, this is about the same team. They had a lot of injuries last year, and they're probably a little better, but I think the combination of their motivations and just like sort of natural attrition and maybe some trades I think that's a pretty reasonable line. If I had to pick a number for them, I'd say like 24, but like a 24-win season is a lot of losses. That's 58 L's. That's a long, I'm telling you, Charlie, 250 episodes of the podcast, baby. I'm locked in. I couldn't be more ready to go.
Your team every day, your losses every day with Mike Richman.
You think you're excited for the season. You were saying you're ready for the games to start before we started recording. Boy, am I. Let's get them going. I'm ready for some 3-win months. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had the Olympics. We could talk about Steve Kerr for multiple shows because so many people were bagging on him. And then we got a Curry flurry for a couple of games. It gave you at least 3-4 episodes. So we get content up in Warriors country, no doubt about it. Asking your opinions on the Warriors from an outsider's perspective that just loves the game of hoop and that sees the Warriors play the Blazers quite a bit in, meaningful high-stakes games over the years. What's your take on what the Warriors are right now? Like, do you have one word to describe what this era is? Like, is there one word that can kind of describe? Mine is a question mark. I guess that's 2 words, but questions. That's kind of my word that describes this upcoming season.
I would say stuck a little bit. They're kind of stuck because Steph Curry is too good to like go the other way, right? Like, first of all, if he plays, you're going to win a lot of games because he's very good. Draymond, as much as he's like very particular to what the Warriors do, he's pretty freaking good at helping what the Warriors do, what they do. I think they got a little bit better depth wise, but like how much? Yeah. Like, I think the combination of Kyle Anderson and DeAnthony Melton is probably better than just one Klay Thompson, but like how much, like how much better? It's hard to know. They're just so, they've kind of been what they are. I think they're like what they've been the last 2 years is kind of what I think they are. They're a team that's going to be in the play-in range. If they get a little bit healthy and no one has long-term suspension, then they could make the regular playoffs and be in a top 6, but they could also be right in that 10th, 9th, 10th range pretty easily again. if you have Steph Curry, you can win some single elimination games, but they're just so dependent on one of the young guys getting really good. They're really JK's got to get really good for them to be competitive.
Everyone keeps saying JK, and I get it. He's got the highest ceiling on this team of any player not named, Steph Curry or Draymond Green. Any of the young players, he definitely has the most take over a game type potential, one of the faces of the league. But I love Brandon Bajemski, and everyone goes straight to JK. I call him Mini Manu, man. He just does all the small things right. Does the big things too, like knock down threes, grab rebounds, take charges on defense. I don't know if you call taking charges big, but I mean, it stops the other team in transition a lot of times. It shifts momentum. Like, he, to me, is someone that, sure, he's probably not going to be the guy that puts up 23, 7, and 6, something like that. But he's just one of those players that I do think, surrounded with the right players, like, he can help you win.
Oh yeah. For me, like, Pods has a clear path to being a competitive, like, if nothing changes, Pods will be on the court in the final few minutes of the game, and Kuminga will probably, right? Or like maybe not if they go a little bit bigger. Like, there's a chance like they play Kyle Anderson at the end of games. I doubt it, but like, there's a world. Pods is going to be on the court when the game is going to be decided, because he helps you win basketball games. I just think Kuminga has that. For me, the biggest question with the Warriors is, how the hell do they score when Steph Curry's on the bench? Like, how the hell do they score? What do they do? And they can get creative and do stuff, but it's like, that, to me, that has to be. Kuminga is the only guy in the roster that I think has the ceiling to be like, throw him the ball and hopefully he scores. The other thing is, like, if 2022 Andrew Wiggins returns, but he is such an enigma. Like, that year is such a weird outlier of his career, because he was freaking great. Like, he might have been the second best player on a team that won the title, and the rest of his career does not suggest that he is that type of player. But boy, was he good in 2022.
No, you know what they do for that 2-minute stretch that Curry's off the floor? They put 2 minutes on the microwave. They bring in Buddy Hield, and they say, give us 7 shots, buddy. No dribbles. The exact opposite of what we were taught in youth basketball. Five passes before you shoot. And instead it's like, catch the ball and shoot it, buddy. Yeah. Just shoot it. Hand in your face. I don't care. That's an X factor off the bench, scoring wise, that can definitely get buckets. Sure. I think Bajemski he could score a little bit. Kuminga, he's going to have to if they're going to be a really good team. And then, aside from that, you start to go down the roster and you're like, Wiggins, he averaged like 12 last year. I don't see him bouncing back in that type of way. I mean, who the heck else would it be? Because a lot of people are trying to compare this to 21-22, but that 21-22 team had Clay and Jordan Poole. Yeah. 2 guys that you don't have right now.
Yeah. And they had a much better version of Kevon Looney. They had a way to go small in like a really meaningful way with Gary Payton. Like, that small lineup with Gary Payton was blitzing teams. And they just haven't, they've been better small. Like, they freaking were starting Draymond at center for a big stretch of the season, right? But like the way that they could toggle between sizes. Okay, we're going to be pretty freaking big with Draymond and Looney, or we're going to go small and we're going to, and turn the pressure up. Like, that's been the secret to their sauce over the years, is to be able to play different ways and play different sizes and always have Steph Curry. And now they're kind of like just into the always have Steph Curry stage of the career. And Steph might, like, dude has aged very well. He might take you to a really, really much farther than I think, but I just kind of think this is a play-in team. They're a play-in team that has a chance. Not much. Their floor isn't much lower than that, but their ceiling is a question to me.
Yeah, the ceiling question. I think that's the fairest statement I've heard in my entire life. Mike Richman, Locked On Blazers. Nice to meet you, man. Thanks for coming on the show. I had fun.
First trip on Locked On Warriors. I can't wait to come back. These teams are going to be playing big, meaningful games when we get to the spring.
Just remember, Mike Richman said there is absolutely no chance. He didn't even give it the Lloyd Christmas. So you're telling me there's a chance with the 0.0001%, 1 in a million? No, he just said there's none. There's no chance this team's going to be good, because even if they're average, they're going to tank for Cooper Flagg. Thanks for coming on, Mike. Appreciate it. This is Locked On Warriors, free and available wherever you get your audio podcast. Peace.